Happy Slice of Life, Cinco de Mayo, Tuesday, May 5th. We're back at it again. That is Billy Harner, Director of Communications for Brooklyn Cyclones. My name is Keith Rad. The show of the Cyclones, where we are pounding through day after day of quarantine, late into the spring, into the summer, and we're trying to have some fun on social media. We'll start off with our favorite social slice. It is, I guess you could say, classes in session today with Mr. Harner.
So for my social slice today, we're going to go back. We're going to go way, way, way back. All the way back to March 1847. The Choctaw tribe of Native Americans was reestablishing itself in Oklahoma after being driven from their ancestral land in Mississippi. And that seems to be quite a daunting task in and of itself. But at the same time, the Choctaw tribe heard about the Great Famine that was going on overseas, particularly in Ireland, and came together to donate $170 to the people of Ireland during their time of need. And this was in 1847. Alone, roughly 1 million people in Ireland died as a result of the famine, and another million people just left up and left Ireland. So you're talking about 2 million people leaving a country the size of Ireland. So now that has been said that the Irish have a long memory. I've said that about myself and my grandparents, most likely. And in this case, that was certainly true, as the people of Ireland have returned the favor 170 years later. And currently, at least 41 people in the Navajo Nation tribe have passed away as a result of coronavirus, and they started a GoFundMe to bring in water, bottled water, to help their people survive. And through this GoFundMe, they have raised over $1.8 million, largely with the donations coming from Ireland as a result of their pay it forward from 170 years ago. So I just thought that was a pretty interesting story. You hear about the potato famine and the Great Famine and all these things that went on years ago, and it's sort of, you read it in a history book and you sort of move on with your life. But it was interesting to see that the people of Ireland are paying it forward here centuries later almost.
Yeah, and I want to, just for the record, $170 in 1847 was like $5,000. So I just wanted to clear that up, that you got to tack on for some inflation. But that's an amazing story. It's like a relationship that you didn't even know existed.
Right. I mean, I can't even imagine, in 1847, rounding up $170 and, asking your people for it and sending it. I don't even know how you would send it.
Where did it go?
You're sending it. It's not going, down to the town square. You're going across an ocean, man. Like that's a crazy turn of events. There's no, you can't Venmo somebody. So that part of it was interesting in and of itself. But the vig on this, the $5,000 in 2020 terms, that's a nice increase there.
My favorite social slice, a Manhattan family had to make do this year. An opening day tradition at Citi Field with the New York Mets. For the last few years, the Goldstein family, Ross, Beth, and Tori, would go to Citi Field opening day, hang out with Mr. Met, and take a photo every year. They've done it year after year after year after year, and obviously there's no opening day this year, not yet. So they had to make do with this photo, which is of them at a ballpark near their house. And that's Mr. Met drawn on paper. Pretty amazing. It's so funny to see the lengths that people will go to keep their great traditions alive. You kind of forget, you're sitting around, you're like, I really miss baseball, and you miss everything about it. And then you see people going to this kind of length to show you that they miss it probably more than you do. So fandom never dies. It's amazing to see, and gets everybody involved in the family.
Yeah, I remember right around opening day, when opening day was supposed to be back in March, there was some stories and some photos circulating on Instagram and the internet of people like in the parking lot at Citi Field just having a catch to keep their tradition alive. There was a story last week about Mark Chernoff, the GM or the VP or whatever his title is now with WFAN and CBS Sports Radio, driving to meet his son halfway between here and Cleveland, where his son is the general manager of the Cleveland Indians. so they could have a catch where it's been a monthly tradition for the last 20 some odd years. So it's great that you have traditions, and especially with sports, you gotta respect the streak, as they say. So making sure you keep things in perspective and keep traditions alive for sure.
Time for Chicken Parm Heroes. This is one of the most Brooklyn tough stories I have heard all year. I just came across this late last night into the morning. Ida Aconchia Mesa, which is right up there with just names on this show that we have made as impossible as we can. Ida is 104 years old, Bill. Lives in assisted living in Sheepshead Bay. She was 2 years old, right around 2 years old, when the Spanish flu hit. Beat that rap. Then survived stage 4 melanoma, 2 broken hips, and oh yeah, just beat coronavirus. Because of course she did. 104 years old, this woman is just swatted like a bee, baby.
I read this story this morning because the first thing that caught my eye was that it's the living facility that's right off the Bell Parkway. So I drive by it every single day. And then the more I looked into the story, I told my wife about it this morning because Ida said that her secret was every day she drinks a glass of red wine and has a red apple. That's her secret to living for 104 years. So I said, at this rate, my wife might live to be 307. But she's I think that's more likely dealing with me, the need for the wine than the health concerns. But good for her.
Putting those people who take $500 worth of supplements a month to shame, that all it takes is a glass of red wine and an apple. What did you see?
For sure. So in late March, a Facebook group was started called RVs for MDs, with the hope of pairing RV owners with doctors and nurses around the United States and Canada to give them free use of RVs so that the medical professionals could stay close to their family without putting them at risk to contract the coronavirus. So it was all started when Emily Phillips, who is a Texas woman, asked her friends on Facebook for a recommendation if anybody had an RV that she could borrow for her husband to stay in their driveway. And it was shared by a friend who's another friend, as things happen. And a woman named Holly Haggard, who had no connection to Emily Phillips, responded to the post and said, sure, you can have mine. So she gave her, a complete stranger, the use of her RV. They parked it in her driveway, where Emily and her husband and her family now have nightly dinners and still are able to spend time together while keeping everybody safe. So Holly and Emily united, and they've created this group, and 24,000 people are now a part of it, and they have had 300 matches across the country for giving RVs to first responders and other medical professionals to make sure that everybody's staying safe and still being with their family. So it was an interesting concept, a great use of social media, and just the kind of thing that you're seeing all over the place for people looking out for each other.
Yeah, pretty ingenious idea. I mean, I have a lot of family that live out west in Colorado. I know I've mentioned that about 10 billion times on the show. And they have RVs sitting in their driveway, and they're beautiful. These things are almost up to $1 million. I mean, I wish I could say that my family all had $1 million RVs, but they're great. It's a great idea. I mean, mom and dad comes home, and you can be close enough where you're not living at a hotel, but you don't have to live inside the house. So really, really smart idea. Jump into sports. Go right back to you because you sent me this, and I was looking at this and saying, okay, all right, life, this is what you got. Tell the people what you found.
Yeah, so while this is not necessarily a sports story, we got our first look at what spectator events might look like when they return. So in a couple days here, Travis McCready, not a household name, not someone who I knew before I found this story, but Travis McCready is a performing artist who will be performing in Fort Smith, Arkansas on May 15th. And here is a look at the notes that accompany the tickets when they are purchased on Ticketmaster. So as you'll see there, the balcony will only be accessible via stairs. No elevators will be used to eliminate the touching of the buttons and the sharing of confined spaces. The capacity was reduced by 80% to 229 people from 1,100. Everyone is required to wear a mask. There's a 10-person limit in the restrooms. There are no touch paper towels, soap, and toilet paper dispensers. All walkways in the facility will be designated one way for entrance or egress. All food and drink will be sealed and distributed sort of like an Amazon locker where you place your order and it'll be put inside and you go and claim it. So that's sort of a look at what might be the new normal in terms of spectator events. The Miami Dolphins yesterday talked about what their plan is for football season, as the NFL is planning to announce their schedule on Thursday. So they're setting up time slots based on ticket points of when you would be allowed entry to the ballpark, so that you don't have thousands of people trying to go in right before kickoff. The concern that I think needs to be addressed and figured out, and this is how all this is happening. The people going in is one thing, but getting everybody out when the game's over is something that I think will be a big speed bump for a lot of us to figure out. So if they did something similar to this here in New York, Citi Field's capacity would be about 8,300 people. Madison Square Garden would be 4,200 people. And MetLife Stadium, where the Jets and Giants play, would be about 16,500. Which leads to a whole bunch of logistical questions in terms of season ticket holders and who gets access and what game they get access to and things like that. But the fact that people are starting to put these things out there and there's events that are being planned and tickets that are being sold, that's all good. It's just interesting to see how this is all going to play out, and hopefully, it's baby steps to get back in a place where we can start having some semblance of life return to normal.
Yeah, I get the feeling as you look at even the seating chart too for the concert, it's just going to be really, really freaking weird, to be honest with you. And it's not going to feel like that live sporting event. I mean, the reason why people stay home and watch football games on TV is because the experience is somewhat better. The only reason that you would go, obviously, if you wanted to have the camaraderie of being with thousands and thousands of people that you all share the same love of the fact that Eli Manning hasn't won you a playoff game in 5 years, and you just want to be out there and watch him. I love Eli. I'm just saying.
Don't you dare talk bad about Eli.
But we can flow this right into my sports, is the Korean baseball, I guess you'd say their opening day, or what we got to see on ESPN last night, finally happened. And there's just nobody in the stands. It's just weird. But then if you do that, that's one thing everyone understands. But if you have 5% capacity or 10% capacity, it's just a little kooky. But with the Korean baseball situation last night, of course, baseball has always been a sport that when you need it, it's there for you. The Piazza home run after 9/11, or D. Gordon hitting a home run after Jose Fernandez passes away. It's just right there. But then it's also quite tongue-in-cheek. You have a rain delay. Of course, we've been waiting just forever for anything, and there's just a little bit of rain, and a fire delay out in the outfield. So I just got a kick out of that because baseball is a living, breathing organism, and there is some supernatural at play always. And I think the baseball gods were just poking a little bit of fun at us last night.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. Aaron Altair was one of the names that you recognize. Played for the Mets last year. He was playing in the KBO. Matt Williams is one of the managers. So there's some familiar faces. But it was a little different for sure. It was a little weird. It's going to take a little while to get used to. The ceremonial first pitch was a boy inside of a bubble, which I was waiting for him to say the moops and see how that would play out. But yeah, it's different. But like I said, anytime you're getting sports back, anytime you're getting something that makes it seem like life's normal, I'm here for it. I'm excited about it. And hopefully, we're not too far behind. South Korea and us started this about the same time, so hopefully we're baby steps, catching up and getting life back to normal.
Yeah, that is what we're hoping for. Beautiful day out there on Long Island, Bill. Looks pretty nice out there. Enjoy your Cinco de Mayo with the family. I will be doing it as well, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Have a great day, everybody. Birds are chirping. They're saying hello, too.